Hello and welcome to episode 39 of Take Your Points. I'm your host, Roland Scott. It was a big weekend for Ulster. Unfortunately, Cavan couldn't tame the mighty Dublin, but we did have success for the Down Camogs, who beat Antrim in the camogie final. Armagh won their junior final over Cavan, and the Fermanagh ladies had victory too. We can't cover it all, but what we will cover is the Cavan result. Mark McKeever's on to talk about what he thinks is next for Cavan, what he thinks of Dublin, and should the structures be changed. Martina Rooney, a former Down manager and a former Down camogue, is in to talk about what the Mourne girls' victory means for the county and what it means for camogie there. And finally, Sean McVeigh is in to talk about the Antrim football situation, what he thinks of Enda McGinley's appointment, what he thinks it'll mean for Antrim, what he thinks is going to happen for the Saffrons in the future. So that's going to be our show this week. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get started. I'd like to welcome the former Cavan player Mark McKeever to the show. Thanks for coming on, Mark.
Hello, Ronan.
I've got you on to talk about Cavan's performance against Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final. It was close in the first half, but in the second half Dublin showed their incredible dominance and put on an amazing performance. But I wanted to start by asking you, what have you thought of Cavan this season?
Yeah, I suppose the run they've had in this year's championship was very good. I suppose starting out, you play Monaghan, it's, you're always up for that game, a local derby game, and I suppose put a lot of thought and that into that in the weeks and months coming up to that. They had that to build to. So to get over the line in the fashion they did in that was great for them. And I suppose moving on then week on week, didn't really give you time to overthink things or anything like that. So moving straight into the Antrim game, probably not the best performance, but every win in Ulster is it's hard fought and you get nothing easy. So against Antrim, I suppose they got over the line. I suppose that's all they needed to do. Then against Down, I thought they had they had a massive game, massive second half. Maybe a little bit jittery in the beginning, and things didn't go to plan. Down played very well in the first half, and I think Cavan just really went for it in the second half. And I suppose the run of the couple of wins had given them a little bit of confidence in that, and that pushed them over the line to get to the final. And getting to an Ulster final after being in an Ulster final the year before, back-to-back Ulster finals for Cavan was a huge thing. We haven't got too many of them in the last couple of years, and to do it was perfect.
In particular, what do you think of them in the Ulster final against Donegal?
Yeah, I thought the performance in the final was immense. I thought, people talk about 70-minute performances and every man has to perform, and I think Cavan did that to a man, to every man that came off the bench, for 70 minutes, 75 minutes, or whatever it was in the end. They were on top, I thought, all over the field. They just seemed to really just go and have a cut at them and didn't let Donegal get a foothold in the game. And I thought if the tactics had been wrong that day and the matchups were wrong, Cavan would have been under pressure, but I think the matchups were right, and then not letting Donegal get a foothold, sort of attacking Donegal early and going into a lead, meant that Donegal had to come out fighting, and Cavan got a couple of bits of spaces in behind and kept tacking on scores. And I suppose Donegal had their purple patch when we had the black card, but I think apart from that, I think every man won their battle on the day, and I suppose you can't ask for anything more.
Okay, last weekend we saw Dublin's incredible performance against Cavan. What do you think of the Dubs?
Dublin, they seem to be a fair bit ahead of the rest at the minute, and their structure has been probably the same for the last couple of years. I suppose when Jim Cavan came in first, he put a structure on them, and for 2 or 3 years they learned an awful lot in that structure. And I suppose even the last 2 years of his management and into Desi Farrell's now, I think it's probably a lot of it player led, and their standards. They've set a bar for themselves, and they don't go below that bar. Even for young players coming in, I suppose the more mature lads there are setting that bar and keeping them to that. One other thing about Dublin is they seem to be always bringing 2 or 3 younger players in, and that conveyor belt seems to be just keep going, and the calibre of lads they're bringing in are just as good, if not better, than what has gone before. So while they still hold their 3 or 4 or 5 sort of experienced fellas, they're still adding youth and pace and everything like that. So it's adding that bit of freshness, I suppose, all the time. So until that conveyor belt sort of slows up, you can't really see much of a change in it. They're just an awesome team, like, and I suppose that's what we, Cavan and I suppose all the other counties around have to get up to. They have to get up to that level, set the bar, and then be probably player led as well, and set the standards for what's coming behind them.
In the aftermath, some said that they felt that the system should be changed because Dublin are so strong. What do you think about that?
I'm unsure about the systems changing. I suppose if we change our systems, like the provincial systems, it'll leave, apart from Leinster, there's the rest of them are competitive. I know, especially this year, you would have seen, Cavan winning Ulster and Tipperary winning in Munster, and things like that we would probably look at, or have been looking at our aim would have been to win an Ulster for a long number of years now, and I suppose that was the major target, and I suppose the same for Tipperary and teams like that. And so we take away that provincial setup, and there is teams there that probably don't have a realistic chance of winning All Ireland, but could get on a good run and win a provincial title, and that provincial title would be huge to all them players. So I suppose that provincial setup, whereas in Leinster it does seem to be a little bit unfair, but all the other provinces, a lot of teams have a lot to fight for, and there's still an awful lot of credibility is there for winning an Ulster title or winning a Connacht or a Munster as well. So I wouldn't like to see that change as much. I suppose having an unfair advantage. I suppose the Croke Park thing probably is an unfair advantage for them as they play most of their games there, and I suppose the likes of Cavan and Tipperary even there at the weekend, getting to Croke Park it's a huge thing, and wanting to play there. Of course they want to play there, but playing in Croke Park in familiar surroundings for Dublin probably isn't much of an advantage for the other teams around. I suppose taking Dublin out of their probably, I suppose their major setup, like the way they work their routines that day, going to games, everything like that, that would upset them having to travel. But I don't know, it's hard to know.
I suppose after their defeat, the questions are, what's next for Cavan? Will they improve?
Yeah, I'd say they can defend an Ulster title. I suppose having got to an Ulster final last year, getting back to it again this year, it'll bring an awful lot of confidence to the players, and I suppose that will be their target to get to an Ulster final again and do the same thing again, get there and throw everything at it. Then I think the way they got to it this year was obviously character building, and would have been very good for the younger players to get them games under their belt, and another year and another Ulster final experience for a couple of boys in that, so that can only be good. Then I suppose playing Dublin and Croke Park and things like that, they'll have learned stuff from that too, so why not aim to be there again, and I think they can be, and there is additions to come back into that team, and some of the players like Dara and Conor Mina that are away, at the minute, if they're back in, they're not lads coming in for the first games or anything like that. They're seasoned Ulster campaigners, so they'll only add to the thing too, so maybe drive it on a little bit more. So I'd hope to see them do well in Ulster Championship again. That needs to probably start from their league. Playing Division 3 can be tough. We played it for years there. You're playing teams that you would think you could beat and that sort of stuff, and they're just sort of dog fights, and sometimes playing Division 2 or Division 1 could be perceived maybe a little bit easier because they're teams are probably focusing on a little bit more on Championship and that, whereas Division 2s and 3s and that are looking to get out of that division and get up a division, so they put a lot of focus in that. So with Cavan need to do that and need to probably get out of Division 3 in year 1 if they're to keep improving. I think a couple of years at Division 3, they're not going to learn a whole pile there, and then it's a big gap then to go up and play the Donegals and Tyrones in Ulster. So I think it probably does need to be a major aim to get out of Division 3 in year 1, and if to do that and to keep the momentum of this year and to be gaining experience along the way, I think he can really good for Cavan.
Thanks for your take apart, Mark.
Thanks, Ronan.
Martina Rooney is a former Down Camogie manager and former player, and I wanted to get her on to talk about Down's victory over Antrim in the intermediate Camogie final last weekend. Thanks for coming on, Martina. The first thing I wanted to ask is, have you heard from any of the girls since the win?
I haven't been physically speaking to any of the girls yet, but I have been messaging them before and after the win, and one thing's for certain is that they're absolutely thrilled, over the moon, and rightly so.
What did you think of their performance? What was the key to the victory?
Down were without doubt very impressive. Antrim did get the dream start. However, these Down girls are experienced campaigners and they didn't panic. As the game settled, Down got a foothold into the game and their confidence grew and they just became stronger and stronger. Their half-back line began to get on top and launched many fantastic attacks. Down's forward line were key to this victory. They just were too hot for Antrim to handle. Sir Louise was her usual brilliant self, and when you've got Niamh Mallon thrown into the mix in the form that she is in at present, there was nothing that Antrim could do. But I was very impressed with how the other Down forwards stepped up to the plate, and you had Amy McLean chipping in with a couple of points, Saoirse McCartan as well, and Lauren Clark turning to be a great playmaker. All these girls played their part in a brilliant Down victory.
You weren't involved this year, Martina. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that. Was there any regret there?
We all try to live our lives with little or no regrets. Last season for me was a very, very busy one. I was trying to balance my career alongside county commitments. I was coaching a number of teams within my club and trying to play a little bit of camogie myself, so something had to give. And I also had a knee injury last year, and this year I decided that I was going to concentrate more of my time on myself and try to recover from my knee injury and see if I could get one more season playing. So this year has been a very good one for me personally, and thankfully I've got absolutely no regrets.
Finally, you know Down Camogie well. What does this result mean?
I feel the impact of this result could be immeasurable for Down Camogie. What a way to finish the year 2020 when we were trying to increase participation levels of females in sports than as All-Ireland champions. I really am excited about the future here. The girls have proven themselves over the past number of years that they are the top team in Ulster. Now, I would love to see them going forward and getting into the senior ranks, going toe-to-toe with the best. I often talk about the spiral of success, and I feel if the county team moves forward, then it's just going to help at club level, and club teams will just become stronger as a result of it. And it's definitely going to inspire the younger generation, and the more young girls are playing camogie, it'll only bode well for Down in the future. So I, for one, am really excited about what the future might hold.
Martina, thanks for coming on. Sean McVeigh has played for Antrim for much of the last decade. I wanted to get him on to ask about what he thinks of the new appointment and the future for Antrim now that they've got a new system in place, or a new management system in place. So Sean, thanks for coming on. Just to start, what have you thought of Antrim this year? What do you think they're going to be like going forward, and what do you think of Enda McGinley?
I feel very positive about Antrim. I say the lads will be disappointed that they didn't get promoted last year, but they can definitely build on from their games and some of their performances. I thought they played excellent in a few games, especially against Limerick. They were outstanding, very quick on the counter-attack, defended really well. So they could build on that and have a good year. With Enda coming in, it's something that I'm personally very excited about. I think it's a great managerial team. Enda will bring in the craft and the experience that only an All-Ireland winner will have. And with the appointment of Sean Kelly, who knows Antrim football inside and out and is tactically very aware, it's a great appointment. I know if I was a player, I'd be very motivated to get back in the changing rooms and back onto the training field to play for the boys.
What are the immediate goals for Antrim football, do you think, and do you think they can achieve them?
I feel the immediate goal for the squad this year is going to be promotion out of Division 4 into Division 3. I think that it's very achievable. We've been unlucky in previous years, and last year too we were very unlucky. I think the lost point at home to Carlow was a massive blow, and then you had the result against Wicklow in Antrim, which wasn't great. I do think the boys were very unlucky with the timing of COVID. I feel they're on the right tracks and gaining momentum. And I think going into the last two games of Wicklow and Waterford before lockdown, they would have been in a better position. I think that the boys will not lack any confidence this year, knowing that promotion has been so close. They know that if Antrim as a team are to progress, we need to get out of Division 4. We need to be playing the better teams in the country. And they will have the experience within the squad this year to push on and try to get that promotion.
Do you think the panel will change? Or do you think they might change how they play as well?
I think every new management team will want to have their own stamp on the team. But I think in terms of personnel, it won't change too much. All the familiar lads will be there, with maybe a few additions, maybe from the likes of Pat Shivers from Cavan, had a good club championship, so hopefully he gets drafted in. And there's a few Portnoy boys who I would imagine have caught Enda and Sean's eye. I believe now McKeever's back, which I personally think that's going to be massive. I think last few years Antrim have missed an out-and-out midfielder. McKeever can come in there, and that means Mark Jordan and Smiley can be pushed further up the field, where I think they'll be more beneficial to the team. Hopefully Mick and Sweeney and Paddy Hands all stick in there, because I think their experience is going to be very important for promotion. I don't think Enda's going to change the style of play too much. We have attacking minded athletic players all over the pitch, and I think Enda will try to use them to the best of their capabilities. Ricky Johnson maybe being fully fit will strengthen up that defence in at fullback, which will allow Declan Lynch possibly play half back and push on. I definitely feel the personnel are there to have a good year. The team have got 2 or 3 good years together, so I think the management will be happy with what they have to work with and with the goals that they set.
I wanted to ask you about the All-Ireland Championship. What did you think of Dublin's win over Cavan and Mayo's win?
The All-Ireland final this year, I think, is going to be an excellent game. I think it's going to be the first true test that Dublin have had. Dublin have been excellent again all year. Their squad is definitely their strength. The 3-4 boys that come on add a wee bit to the team. They knock on a few points. The team performance doesn't dip when these changes are made. Before the semi-final against Cavan, I thought maybe they might be a bit suspect underneath the high ball, but I feel they dealt with that really well against Cavan. So it really is very hard to see where Dublin can be beaten or how they can be beaten. But you have a Mayo team that have experience. They also know what it's like to play in an All-Ireland final, albeit they have lost them. But they've got a young crop of players who probably aren't carrying that burden of defeat as much as maybe some of the older players. And that could definitely be an advantage that they take into this game. I thought Mayo were excellent against Tipperary. Their attacking play was frightening. Really, really good. My only concern would be their defensive unit. They conceded a lot of goals and could have or should have conceded a few more. I think Dublin maybe wouldn't miss the opportunities that Tipperary missed, especially in the first half. But having said that, Mayo are an awkward side to play against. They're a physically strong side who will be able to cope with Dublin. So I think it's going to be a very, very good game. As I said, it's going to be Dublin's first real test, which is a slight concern. You know, they haven't played a team of the calibre of Mayo this year yet. But I think Dublin probably to win the game again by 1 or 2 points. But it's definitely going to be an exciting one, and hopefully I would like to see Mayo win, just because they've been heartbroken so many times. But it'll definitely be a good end to a good championship, considering the position that we've all been in since the start of the year.
Finally, a lot of people say that the system is unfair because Dublin are so far ahead of everyone else in resources and that sort of thing. Do you think the structure should change? Because that was one of the things that was suggested. Would you agree with that?
I think what the championship showed us this year is that knockout football is king. You know, we were able to see knockout football, proper old school championship football. And if you didn't perform, that was your season over. And I think that, you know, gave us as spectators a real freshness that I think we all really, really enjoyed. On the back of this, it was great to see some of the so-called weaker teams progress to the later stages of the championship this year. I think the structure of the back door and the Super 8 definitely favours the stronger teams. You know, I think you can catch these teams have an off day once, but you know, you're not going to catch the likes of Tyrone, Donegal, or even Kerry. You know, have an off day twice in a year. So the knockout football does give the weaker teams, you know, a bit more of a chance of a big upset. You know, as a player, I love playing in the provincial championship. You know, no matter who it was against, you know, you always knew you had a chance of catching these teams and maybe beating them. And if you didn't, you know, you were into the draw for the back door, which had its own benefits, and that you're going to play a team and maybe that will be more competitive against, you know, the knockout football this year did see, as I said, Tipperary and Cavan get to the All-Ireland semi-final, but both of these teams suffered heavy defeats, and maybe, you know, under the previous year's structures we wouldn't have seen such heavy defeats. You know, the Super 8s usually end up with the strongest teams in Kerry, Dublin, Tyrone, Donegal, Mayo, Galway, and then, you know, a couple of our other ones. You know, these games are going to be better for the spectator. They're going to be a lot closer, and you're going to see a lot more top class football. But my biggest fear about the Super 8s is that outside of the 8 teams, you know, the gap is definitely going to widen. I think that's something that the GA needs to look at. Is how do we promote football outside of those 6, 7 teams, and then whatever other team gets into the Super 8s. I think the backdoor and Super 8 structure of Championship has come under quite a bit of criticism, especially this year when we've had the knockout Championship. But I personally don't feel that one is better than the other. They both have their pluses and they both have their negatives. I think the GAA have a real struggler in their hands to find that balance of giving all the teams in the country competitive football, where at the same time giving football that the players want to play in. I know as a player, I wasn't particularly interested in the tier championship. I wanted to go out and play the best teams, but I see the benefits of it now as a spectator. I can see how playing in a championship that is at your level may progress the team and progress the sport nationally. You only have to look at my own county in the hurling. I feel that the Antrim hurlers have went from strength to strength under the tier championship, and I think this year they've played some amazing hurling. They've been great to watch, and they're growing in confidence. And this is all down to playing competitive games, winning competitive games, and winning all Irelands at a tiered level. Winning does breed winning, and if all these teams were performing the way that the hurlers did under a tiered championship, then maybe football could improve nationally, and the gap between the top 5-6 teams and the rest of the county could be closed. So it's definitely a problem I think the GA have, and I think it's something they need to find a solution out to very, very soon, because like I said, I just see with the current structure, I just see there being 4 or 5 teams within football who are just so much better than everybody else, and you're really going to have a very difficult championship every year.
Sean, thanks for taking part. Okay, that's our show for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Highs and lows of this season. There's still a few more games left to play before this season runs out. Antrim are coming up at the weekend to play Kerry in the Joe McDonagh final. We'll be back to talk about that before the season's out. But thanks for watching this week. If you enjoyed this show, there's plenty more. You can get them all online, nvtv.com or gaeliclife.com. They're all there. You can go right back for the past couple of years. So hope you do that. I also encourage you to subscribe to Gaelic Life. You can get plenty more features and analysis just like this on our digital system online. And we've also got the new app as well, so I encourage you to download that so you can get it all straight to your phone or your tablet or your computer indeed as well. But thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon.